It is a beautiful day. How are you today? How are you this Thursday night? Just a few weeks out of the Kenya election. I hope you are happy with the choices that Kenya is making because what is. You know, sometimes we may not get everything we want, but we work with what we get on the table. So we're waiting now to hear the latest on what we're all going to be receiving from the table. I am your reporter with BongaDadaBonga. I am Ella Dashanaba King, also known as Queen Mother, and a part of the BongaDadaBonga team. Very happy to be a part of it. I'd like to give a shout out to all of the ladies on the BongaDadaBonga team who are listening in either from their homes or their jobs or who knows, maybe in the car. We have a very exciting show for you today. And let me tell you, if you've been keeping up with our social media, then you already know who's here. But let me tell you a little bit about the people who are in studio today. And I'm going to start out by giving us a full introduction on our host for today. Okay. Her name is Florence Machio. Did I pronounce that properly, Florence? Florence Machio or Florence Machio. All right. She has been doing 20 years, y'all. 20 years of advocacy work, research work, and training in various organizations in Kenya and on the African continent. Not just Kenya alone, okay? And her trainings and research has been on policy issues towards sexual gender-based violence, and she's also an active participant focusing on child protection. Oh, I so honor the field that you're in, Florence. I so honor that field. And I thank you for the work you've done. When I hear 20 years, I think about myself and 20 years that I've been doing in the classroom or other things that I've done. So you're fully engaged in your work. And we're very happy about that. And we're also very happy to have you on Queen Mother Speaks this evening as our host. Please unmute yourself. I'm bringing you into the listening audience. Thank you to all those people listening in today. Here we go. Lady Florence.
Thank you, the Queen Mother herself. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, everybody who is joining us today. It's a pleasure to be a guest host, and I'm happy to have been invited into this space to have conversations about things that I take, I really treasure in my heart, things that I would like to see. And I've just discovered some of the people who are going to speak to us today are actually people that we have experienced, we have similar experiences in other spheres. So I'm very excited about today. I'm very excited as a Kenyan woman to have this particular conversation. We're looking at this election in a way that we as a country have come a long way to just even have a woman in parliament. And so for us this year, we've seen a lot more women get into parliament. But also, we also know, working in the space of gender-based violence, that Kenyan women in politics are aware that GBV or gender-based violence is an ever-present threat. And therefore, it's not uncommon for women candidates either to hire private security or to be afraid to even run in the first place. We also have several obstacles that prevent women from coming up into leadership positions. We have structural barriers, we have cultural barriers, we have social demands, we have religious barriers, we have gender-based violence, financial barriers. All these barriers are there. But in between all that, we have women who have made it, we have women who have attempted, and we have women who have worked in those spheres. And so before I do much more talking, I just wanted to give you a backgrounder as anybody who is watching either from outside of Kenya, who is not familiar with our political space, that we are moving into an era where women are no longer afraid to get into politics, but also despite the barriers that I've just mentioned. So before I go further, I want you to know that we have a co-host with me today, and it's a gentleman called Douglas Ebole, and who you can find around town rolling up his sleeves, working within the community. And Douglas is a media personality, he's a consultant for TV and radio content, he's a philanthropist, he's a businessman, and he's a founder of Nairobi City Cartel Youth Movement. I'm very curious about Nairobi City Cartel Youth. And then one of his favorite quotes, he states this: I believe strongly in community participation in development projects, in transparency, and most importantly, accountability to the people. Leaders are servants. And I agree with you, Douglas, because leaders are our servants and we have to hold them accountable. So over to you, Douglas, to just say hello to us and give us your welcoming remarks before we delve into this subject this evening. Karibu sana.
Asante. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be in this program, and I'm looking forward to, this is my first time. I'm looking forward to engaging and, share my views and also my concerns about the topic at hand. And I think it's very important that, through such forums, we can be able to communicate, some of the things that probably the mainstream media might not have time to actually delve in for a long period of time. So I am honored, and I say thank you, and for being here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Douglas. And one of the most important things, every time I get into a space, I'm asked, oh, what about the men? So the boy child is represented. For the Kenyan audience, you understand what I mean when I say the boy child. And so today we have somebody that I know. I know her in a different sphere, but she's joining us to give us her perspective around women in leadership, because she's been in a leadership position, in a political leadership position, not as an aspirant, but what we call, CECs, or a minister at the county level. And therefore, I want to introduce Dr. Elizabeth Mary Anyango Ominde Ogaja. That's her full name. And we call her Dr. E. She's a medical director and head of pharmaceutical operation, and served as the Pioneer County Minister for Health Services and Promotion of Health Investments in Kisumu County. Currently, she's offering her wealth of knowledge at Kabarak University under pharmaceutical chemistry. I wonder what that is, pharmaceutical chemistry. But that's the woman who is joining us today. We call her Dr. E. And Dr. E, please tell us, we are talking about politics, we're talking about women in leadership. You have been in that leadership position at county level. You have seen, several things happening at the county levels. I've been in Kisumu. I've seen the kind of change that you put there. And so I just want you to tell us, what has been your experience as a woman at that level of leadership?
Thank you so much, Florence, for that wonderful introduction. Yeah, so as I've been introduced, my name is Elizabeth, and everybody knows me as Dr. E. And I'm a pharmacist by training. And one of the things that I have done in my 34 years of working in public service is I chose to stay in the public service because I wanted to serve the people of my country in that sphere. And it's been a very interesting experience. And I think I was encouraged to be an adventurer by my father, who was a professor at the University of Nairobi. And he always encouraged me to just go for it. Whatever it is that I put my mind to, he said, just go for it. You have the ability. And I think that was a very, very important thing that allowed me to take the decisions that I did as I moved up the ladder in public service. Now, I joined the public service at a time when a lot of women were not in senior positions of leadership, especially in the health sector. It was a very male-dominated environment. And if I even look at my class at the university, there were, out of 25 students, only 10 of us were women. the rest were men. So that's the environment we came from, and then we joined the public service. One of the things that I would like to say is that the opportunities that were available to us at the time that we joined, that was in the late 1970s. That's when I actually joined the public service. And in that time, I started working in the rural areas of Kenya in the health sector. And it was a space where you find you're the only woman, that is around. So even whom to ask for support, there was nobody there. And that's where I had to really draw in from and know who I was or who I am in order to be able to move forward in that extremely dominated environment. But I must say that even as I worked in the public sector, my male colleagues were very supportive, and we did work together. So we didn't feel the fact that there was this difference with the gender. And so when I came into, I left the public service in 2013. I was offered a position as what they were calling the county executives for health, or in simpler language, this county minister for health. And it was rather serendipitous how I came into that position, because the governor at the time, he was somebody that I knew from different spaces, and he was asking for my advice on health matters. And at some point he said, look, why do you have to keep advising me? Why don't you just come and do the work? And I thought, wow, this is a fantastic opportunity. I have no clue about what it means to be in the political space, but the experience I've had in the public sector, I think, prepared me well to go there. And so one of the things that I came in with, I guess I was quite idealistic, because this was a new thing. The counties were new. Everything was new. And here I was being given an opportunity to be a pioneer county minister for health. And I think that perhaps I wasn't as well prepared for that, what happens in the political space, as I now look in hindsight, think I could have been. But maybe that also gave me the space to be creative. I felt a bit like Michelangelo with his canvas. Here is something to paint on. What can I paint as we create this new political dispensation? And it was a very interesting experience, especially working in the side of the country that I work with, because that was also I know that we had quite a number of women politicians who really made a big difference in the space. But when I was now doing it practically, you could see that there were still some places where you could feel that because you're a woman, some of the things that you had to say were either not listened to or taken seriously. And that, I guess, was a bit of, I would call it a culture shock, because the kind of environment I had grown up in is you've got the education, you can do what you like, and then you find that people are not really interested in what you have to say. But I want to say that the women that we worked with in that space were very, they had a really clear view of what they wanted to do, regardless of their professional, leaning. And they approached their work with integrity. And I say this because if you look at the ways that a lot of the political spaces are operating right now, people are not really keen on things that to do with integrity. But the few women that we were, I think we were about 4 or 5 of us in the cabinet, operated with that background, and that is actually what enabled us to make big strides in what we intended to do to transform the communities that we were accountable for. So one of the things that I really want to bring up in this discussion is what is our relationship to integrity, both with ourselves and also with other people that we engage with, especially in the political space. Because if you see how sometimes people are willing to bend rules and do things that are not professionally acceptable, then the question is, what has people who are well educated, well exposed, whether it's even with their various religious backgrounds and so forth, yet you find people doing things that you would not expect them to do in that space. And this is the kind of thing that I would like us in this discussion to really engage with and see what has people do those kind of things. And let's say misuse public funds when you know that is not something that is acceptable in society, and yet you go ahead and do that. So those are maybe a few of the thoughts that I just like to share. For now, I'll be contributing further in the discussion, but I'm really excited to be here and just give my thoughts and listen to what the public also has to say about women in politics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. E. I want to bring in Douglas. Douglas, because you're the founder of Nairobi City Cartel Youth Movement. And Dr. E has mentioned something to do with the issues of integrity, especially within the public space and leadership. What's your take, and do you have any questions for Dr. E based on what she's just said? Thank you.
Okay. Actually, that is a very important point that Dr. E has actually brought forth. And that is one of the things that really ails not only our political system, sometimes it also seeps into the private sector. We find that there is no checks and balances, no consequences, and people can get away with certain acts that we clearly know they're illegal, but they are not held into account. When this happens over a period of time, there tends to be an understanding that nothing will happen to me regardless. All I need to do is make sure that I put some funds aside for my lawyers, and it will be a prolonged process. So it's actually the government itself, in terms of actually punishing individuals who actually engage in this kind of activities. That is not happening. We're seeing what's happening in the courts. We're seeing the problems that we have with some of the judges that we have in the courts, and how some of these cases are either dismissed, prolonged, or sometimes if it involves witnesses are eliminated. So this is a real serious issue, especially in a political space. We find that even the challenges start from before you're even elected into political space. You realize that if you're trying to move as a person of integrity, or you're trying to do the right thing, you quickly realize that you really have to sort of like rely on certain individuals for your safety, in order to sell your agenda or to move in different places. It is very clear that during the political during the campaign period, it's not a free for all movement. You can't just move to any other place, because you have opponents, and sometimes they actually engineer certain parameters that you cannot come and campaign here, or you cannot go through here, or certain individuals demand payments to actually access certain areas so that you can be able to sell your agenda. We know that this is a problem, and especially if you're a person of integrity, and you want to do things the right way, you might find this as a big deterrent in terms of being a leader, and you might just give up and let it go. That's why we find that our political space is full of characters who are, sometimes very undesirable, but they are willing to do all these wrong things in order to sell themselves to the people. So we want the government to actually create a space whereby people can have freedom of movement, and more people, because I believe we have better leaders in Kenya, but they're just sort of like discouraged by the environment that is there, that is a little bit thuggish in terms of trying to actually achieve anything in terms of elected position. So I would like to see a situation whereby things are pretty much organized and there's proper security, that people can actually go and sell their agenda, that can actually help other people to actually get in the space, who can actually take this country to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you, Douglas. You've said several things, and a lot of things come to mind as you speak. And I was just asking myself, if I was asked to run for office, would I do it? The answer right now is a no, for several things, and some of them you've mentioned, that even running a clean campaign is a challenge. When we started this show, I talked about that women sometimes, some of the barriers they face is financial, is security. And why would a woman hire security in a land that's supposed to be free and there's freedom of movement? You hire security because your opponent, who most likely is a man, would want to send goons your way to shame you. And there's this body shaming thing for women and character assassination. And so when you look at that and you look at the expense of your child, then you're like, I don't want to go to this space. This morning, I spoke to a lady who was running for member of county assembly in Nairobi. And she told me that there was a day that goons were around her house because she was running. And she knew the OCS, the police, and called the OCS. And those guys were saying, we don't even fear the police. We know how to deal with the police. And so the police came and they managed to diffuse the situation. Her children could not stay in that house throughout the election period. And so she had to move the children. So for a woman, when you tell me to run, and this is the evidence of what I see, then it's very difficult to see a lot more women coming up and offering themselves, even when they are qualified for leadership positions, from primary level, from the primaries level, to the main election. And so in this country, sometimes I feel like the truth is very dangerous. Like when you speak the truth, when you walk in integrity, it's almost like somebody wants to stifle you and you stand out as a sore thumb. So my question, maybe Dr. E, you being in leadership before, how has corruption or lack of integrity influenced or not influenced the participation of women in leadership positions?
Thank you, Florence, for that question. Corruption is has a huge impact on whether or not women of all ages will actually put their toes into the political space. And I say this because you look at some of the things that we have created in our political space for women. Why you have to pay people to attend rallies, why you have to have all of this money spent in order to be able to just to share your agenda and say what you have for the people. Because if you look at it in reality, if I want to, if I say the four of us in this room, there's something I'd like to do for you, and I want to share my agenda with you, all I have to do is speak. You listen, and then you make a choice as to whether what I'm saying makes sense or not, and said, yes, we want you to run, or no, your message doesn't make sense. No, thank you. And so you're wondering, where does all these millions go to? And why do we have to spend such a lot of money just to have people to say yes or no for something? And for the women, because I remember there was a friend of mine who wanted to run for a women's rep position in the western part of Kenya. And she kept calling and asking for, can you donate some money? I don't have any money for my campaign. I'd like to go out and move around and do my campaigning, but I don't have any money. Could you loan me some money? I'd even give you my piece of land uh, as a security, so that I'll pay you back the money. And of course, eventually, because she didn't have the money to do what she wanted to do, she didn't get very far with her campaign. And so the corruption, I think, is very off-putting for a lot of women. And then I would say that, and I know that we have a lot of men who are also, spiritually sound. But for a lot of women, when you see that they're the caregivers in their family, they're the ones who set the family standards, etc., etc. Now, if you are saying those things at home and then your kids see you doing something else outside, it really makes it extremely difficult. And sometimes I ask myself, like the women who made it in our most recent elections, what did they have to do to get there? Some of them are very good, very well educated, very experienced, and so forth. But then when you hear the stories, and I'm saying this because sometimes when I hear the stories of what happens at the parties, the political parties, some of the things they ask for, some of the amount of money they may ask you to put down in order to be considered to be a candidate for position X, Y, or Z. And this is very off-putting for a lot of the women. But I would like to say there's a light at the end of the tunnel. When I listened to one or two of the young women who put themselves forward in the recent election, and they just went and they were absolutely open and honest with their public and said, look, I don't have money, but I am aware of the issues that have been affecting our community. And I give you my word that if you do elect me, I will go forward and represent you and, do whatever you want me to do as a community. And one of them was, when she was sharing this, she said that that's all she did because there was no way she was going to raise the kind of money her opponents had. So I would say that she actually stood there as a person of integrity and said, look, this is me, and this is what I have to offer. Take it or leave it. And the people took it, and they put her in the position that she was running for. But this doesn't happen for a lot of women. And I think that one of the things that we really have to now deal with and really take the bull by the horns, and I was listening to what Douglas was saying, is that if we do not take the bull by the horns and deal with this corruption thing and punish the people who are breaking all the rules and regulations that we have set, because Kenya has some very good laws. We have great policies. We have fantastic constitution, but people have absolutely no commitment. And that's one of the things as a human being, and I would ask everybody who puts themselves forward, what is your commitment to having things run with integrity so that everybody in the country benefits? And if this kind of discussion was had openly, without hiding anything, a lot more women, I think, would have a really, great opportunity to show what they have. And they could be in positions, whether elected or not elected, but, we also have a lot of positions where people get appointed to public positions. But a lot of the time you find that there are positions where it's only men who will get appointed. Like if I can tell you my own profession, as a pharmacist, we have only had in 30-something years, only 2 women were ever appointed to head the Department of Pharmacy at the Ministry of Health left in 34 years. And we've had women educated both inside Kenya and outside Kenya, brilliant young women. Nowadays, I'm seeing a lot more young women being in positions of authority in public service. But it's been a hard struggle to actually get there and be appointed as head of anything. And unless we deal with this integrity issue right from the grassroots, from the top to the bottom, and I'm saying, and I would say without embarrassment, it starts from the president to the MCA and everything in between. We need to now look at this. Are we really people of integrity? Are we willing to say no to the cartels? Because when you look at Nairobi, how come we have had cartels since the beginning of independence in one shape or form? In Nairobi, where did these things come from? Who had the agreement that these things should be there? You know, these are the questions we should be prepared to ask and discuss. Doesn't matter what position you're talking about. We must be prepared to have those uncomfortable conversations about what people are doing wrong. Because if somebody can spend 200 million or even 1 billion shillings in a campaign, the question is, where on earth does somebody who largely spent their time in public service get 1 billion shillings to spend on a campaign from? And what worries me now as I look that even the churches are beginning to pander to these kind of people. And that is really worrying, because the church has been the moral compass. If you look at what happened in the fight for the Constitution in the past, and now we are now kowtowing to all kinds of political leaders, then who's going to be our conscience as a community? That's the question I would like us to address.
Thank you so much, Dr. E. You raise very, very critical issues. I'm looking at so many things you've said. I'm looking at the money factor in elections, you know, from political parties, where a woman has to pay a certain amount for them to even be allowed to run on the party ticket, and it's not even guaranteed that you'll win the primaries. That's one. The other issue you raised, which is also critical, is the lack of commitment to the laws that we've already put in place. We have the Constitution that give, you know, a mandatory 2/3 gender rule of either gender being in political spaces, whether it is ministers at national level, whether it is in parliament, whether it is the county assembly. Yet we have yet to see this happening. It's still a struggle that we've had in the previous parliament, and I don't know what's going to happen in this particular parliament. Again, you've also raised another issue. Church has been the moral compass. I remember when I was growing up, my father talking about Ndingi Mwana Anzeki, you know, seeing something wrong with the government and speaking up, and everybody listening. And even I remember during that time, my father would tell me that the then president, the late President Moi, would listen to what the church is saying, because when they spoke, they meant it. And so when you look at all those things, we're asking ourselves, where did the rain start beating us as a nation? Because it is this environment that has made women find it very difficult to put their foot into government spaces, into leadership spaces, and into political spaces. So over to you, Douglas. These questions, the money factor, you know, the non-commitment to our laws, you know, the church as the moral compass, the uncomfortable conversation with the truth, so to speak. Go ahead, Douglas.
Well, yeah, those points raised by Dr. E are very critical, and I'll go down to, you know, quickly explain. I'll touch on three things. I'll touch on the financing, I'll touch on the cartels, and I'll touch on the church. Probably end with the church. It's not a small feat running for any political office in Kenya. It is easier maybe if you are running maybe for MCA in a small area and people know you, then, you know, you can easily just, you know, convince them because they have a little background about you or your family, and they can, if you're the most learned or you come from the learned family there, then it might be easier. But majority of the time it involves a lot of spending. And this is what, because I've been in campaigns, I've campaigned in Kenya, I've run for public office in Kenya, and I can tell you a rundown on where the money goes. So first of all, there's financing of projects. That's why campaigns are expensive. There's financing of projects. Either you started a project before the election, or you're continuing with a project that you've just started just because you're campaigning and you're showing people that you really want to do something to improve them. This could be anything to do with helping the young people, the older people, whatever project it may be. Second is the church contributions. We all know that the church is one of the base that politicians in Kenya actually use to get access to a large congregation. And most of the time, if it's SDA or whatever type of church it is, Pentecostal, you find that if they give you a space, then when you speak, it's like you're speaking to the whole congregation of Pentecostals. So most politicians go there. And to facilitate that, that's where we have a problem with the church. You know, you always have the situation whereby not only should you attend a service and, you know, just be recognized, but you know that you have the pastors who give you the platform for you to sell your political ideals or ideas or whatever you want to say, and which I don't think it's right. And for this to happen, there's a facilitation. People have to spend money to give to this churches, either to the pastors or to finance any project that the church has going on. Then we have buying of nominations. Just like you said, some parties, you have to buy these nominations. Some people spend a lot of money to buy these nominations so that they can get direct ticket. And also, you also have to spend a lot of money to campaign, even to get these nominations. That's where the money goes. Another one is buying out your competitors. This is maybe people pay other people to actually step down or join their team. If they find that they're going to be a threat or reduce their votes, they pay out money for them to step down or join their team, so that they can be able to have high chances of actually being elected. Another issue is advertising, and advertising is broad. We are talking about flyers, we're talking about billboards, we're talking about radio, we're talking about television. So all these cost money, and you know, it's a money game. You go to the radio, if you want to actually say something, you have to pay. That's where some of the money goes to. Then we also have the campaign workers, the people who work for you. Some of them volunteer, but some of them you have to pay them because they are coming out of their work, they're putting time in, and you know, for you to motivate them, you really have to pay them. And that's where also a lot of money goes into security. And this is not only security for yourself and your campaign stuff, but also security in terms of where you're going. Just like I said earlier, you have all these groupings that will not allow you to attend certain areas unless you pay them off, because that's their neighborhood and they will give you their own security. So you're paying double for security. So that is one of the other things that consumes money. And for anybody who's gone on a political campaign, you'll understand very well that if you just go to certain areas without consulting the groupings that are there, you might just end up in a very bad situation. We're talking about transport. It costs to move. It costs to campaign. You're fueling your cars. You're fueling the cars of all your campaign staff, moving from one place to another, especially if you're running for a member of parliament. If you're running for a position of governor, you can imagine crisscrossing the map. And this is for months. So that is a lot of money. We're looking at food and entertainment. You also have to feed your staff. You also have to entertain them, keep them motivated. And, you know, lastly, I'll just touch on, you know, contributions for facilitation. And this is facilitation in different ways, in places where you want to go or the things you want to do, consultations, some people giving you advice and leading you to certain ways or trying to guide you. So I'll just touch on that. Though that is where some of the money goes to, and this is a lot. So you can imagine the higher you go in terms of office, the more money you spend in terms of this. And this is what is really discouraging a lot of people from entering politics, because it's an expensive affair, and it's become an affair for the rich. And that is not right, because we need certain laws to be changed in this country, whereby I think running for public office should be financed by the people. And if you're going to actually finance your political aspirations, there's a certain amount of money that can only come from you, a certain percentage, so that majority of the people can be able to actually get into politics, because you're financed by the people. It is the people actually, when they believe in you and believe in your ideals, they can be able to finance you, and you can be able to run politics. This will make it, will create an even playing field, so that many people can actually come out and actually be able to run for office. On the issue of cartels, cartels exist because of interests. Yes, and just from the definition of a cartel, it's just a group of people or businesses that come together with a particular interest and try to block other people from actually accessing that interest, so that they can try to control it. Cartels have existed in Kenya, especially even not only in politics but also in the private sector. Just taking care of the interests that they have, and sometimes they become very strong that they actually hamper the management of county governments. They hamper the management because they have roots, and when I'm talking about roots, is they have so many individuals still working in the same organizations that can hamper, even if you're coming to bring good ideas or try to sort of like get certain contracts to be done by people who actually deliver. They can be blocked. And so it gets very hard for certain projects to go through. Like if you're a governor trying to pass a project and the MCAs are in the pockets of the cartels, you're going to have a difficult time. That's why we've always seen governors always trying to beg MCAs to actually get things done, or bribing them to get things done, so that they can be able to fulfill their mandate. Otherwise, they can block you. So cartels exist, and all this comes with governance, because governance can also enable the destruction of these cartels, so that we can actually be able to run our private affairs or run government affairs easily. And lastly, the church. Yes, we talked about the church being a moral compass, and this has been a big issue because I've raised this in different platforms. We've seen in Kenya that the church has become almost like the fifth arm of government. The media is the fourth estate. The church is the fifth estate. They're working in cahoots with the government in terms of just hoodwinking people and giving politicians a platform to do and say whatever they want to their congregation, because politicians look for people, and if they get a platform, they can speak to people. They will do it even in a funeral. So we've seen that the church has actually lowered its ability to actually bring the checks and balances and question the government. I'm not saying all the church. There are some pastors and bishops who are actually doing the right thing, and they actually fight for the right thing. But we're seeing unscrupulous pastors and bishops who come in and actually bring a lot of confusion to the people instead of guiding them. And they're not even standing up and saying to the government that no, this is wrong. We need a better way of actually approaching this issue. So they're lacking in that area, and we hope that we can actually help them so that we can improve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Douglas. We are almost getting into the space where we want to discuss what are the possible solutions. But you've mentioned that if the parliament, if media is the fourth estate and the church is the fifth estate, that is very hilarious. But also that is so true. Somebody please mute. All right. So if I've seen Honorable Toili has joined us, and I want Margaret Toili comes from Bungoma, Karibu Sana, Bungoma County in Western Kenya. She's probably a mother, a wife, and a grandmother. Please mute Miss Margaret so that we can hear each other. Thank you. So Honorable Toili's state's politics shapes our day-to-day activity, the way we think, our security. Oh, she's dropped off. So let me continue introducing her. And she was an aspirant of the 2022 general election for the seat of Bungoma County Women Representative. And yes, and you spoke about, Douglas, about how a governor is challenged in terms of moving across a county. Now you can imagine a woman representative seat, women member of parliament at the county level, crisscrossing all those areas to actually be able to run. And even the affirmative, the National Affirmative Action Fund is very minimal In fact, I realized that the women rep gets fewer monies compared to a member of parliament who is in a sub-county. So you can imagine how difficult it is. And no wonder people say, why do we want to have the women rep seat? They don't do much. But it's simply because when you look at their mandate and you look at the funds they receive, is so little, less than what your member of parliament receives. Miss Margaret is coming in and out, so hopefully she'll at least join us and say something before we finish. But Dr. Elizabeth, I want us to look at solutions. We've looked at, the people say that politicians and our leaders are the mirror of our society. What can we do does it mean it's a reflection of ourselves? And I say this in hindsight. I'm a PTA chair in my son's school. And I noticed that there was a time that we had an election. The children were having an election and electing their own class representative. And I remember there's a parent who decided to buy sweets for all the children in that class so that they can vote for their child. And I remember calling it out at that particular time. And other parents were surprised at why I'm calling that one out. But now, when I remember that story, I am wondering, are politicians a mirror of who we are? Because if a parent can go to that length, that is bribery, that is rigging, that is voter buying in that small way. But what are we planting? What values are we planting in our children? So please tell me, what do you think? Are they a mirror of our society? Are our leaders a mirror of the society? And what can we do to start changing this mirror, and so that we look inward as opposed to pointing fingers at our leaders and politicians?
Thank you so much. I'll just take a very short time. I think the politicians, if we are being sitting with the uncomfortable truth, do mirror who we are in society. Because if you look at what is truth, and there are all kinds of truth, and you can have truth by agreement, that we all agree that this is the truth and this is fine. Or you can have truth in reality, that's something I can actually, that is tangible. So we may need to look at ourselves and agree, what are the truths that we are creating that is allowing all of this to go forward? And we need to, the first thing I would say is we need to at some point to say, look, no more. And if you look at the way we human beings operate, we do things that the animal kingdom doesn't do. And it's because we create language. And in language, we say certain things that communicate, and that you create a certain picture of how society is. Now, like you, if we behave like you in the sweets, and we said no more sweets, no matter what form the sweets take, we are not going to allow this. Because I was looking at this young lady, the one who got the woman's rep, and she was saying that she just enrolled people, and the people got so passionate about what she was standing for that they donated their time. Like there was this border rider who took her all over the place. She didn't have any guzzling vehicles. And I'm just using this as an example of what is possible. And if we can start looking at what is actually possible, if we dropped all this stuff that Douglas talked about earlier, of course the projects do, in reality, they cost money. But there's some of the things that he was talking about that really do not need to be done. And if we can create a level of commitment that, yes, I'm going to donate to the woman, let me call it the woman's rep, because that's what we're talking about here. I'm going to donate some time or even a vehicle or some fuel from my space to help this person because I believe in her message. And then we can cut out a lot of the unnecessary expenses. I know there are necessary expenses in politics. I don't think there's anywhere where you can't spend money. Even if you're using a border, it still costs money because you have to fuel it. So if we can start, that's the first thing we have to say. And then we need to ask ourselves, what are we really a stand for in the transformation of our society? And each one of us has to ask ourselves that question, so that when I choose to support a particular candidate, am I really examining what this person is doing or standing for. Because when I look at some of the characters, you have some of the people who are running for office, and the number of court cases they still have, which are going to, I guess those things are going to be following them even after all the swearing in. But these are people who should perhaps not even have stood in the first place. But we allowed them because we, the society, said we want them, regardless of the vitucos that they've done, or the, let me not say the strange things that they have done in society, which some of which are definitely against the law. And if we can now say no, if the Constitution says that you don't meet this criteria, then you don't run. And that's it. Go and sort yourself out. And then when you have restored your integrity, maybe we'll give you another look. But right now, you don't qualify. So that then we give the people who have the kind of character that we want as leaders, they have a chance to be seen. And then the other thing is, I think we now need to look at, when we want to transform our society, what are the most important things that need to be transformed? And I'm talking across the professional, horizon. What are the things that really matter? And once we do that, then we can say, okay, these are the things that have priority. And then we can put our resources together. Like when we look at roads, roads make such a huge difference. It makes a big difference for me in the health sector, because I can move my patients from point A to point B in an emergency. It makes it's important for the agricultural sector, because once the produce is grown and everything, they can be moved quickly to the markets, so that the person who grew them can now get their resources and do whatever they want to do for their families, etc., etc. And so if we can now look at what matters, cut out the corruption, and cut it out with a commitment, not just lip service. And then we sweep it under the carpet until the carpet is bulging. Because if you look at the carpets in our society, there are a lot of bulging carpets because there's a lot of stuff underneath it. But we have to really say that the people who don't qualify, and then you look at the women and you listen to the women. It's not that we have to create a special position for women, although it has its purpose, but we just give the women a chance. And then it is us, the society, who says, I like that person. The message that she's given makes sense. I'm going to give her my vote without her having to bribe me, because the decision I'm making actually doesn't cost money, in truth. And if we can at least do one or two of those, or three of those things to start with, to clean up the space, I think we will. And like, for example, if I'm talking of Kenya, which is the country that we are currently in, if we look at what's in our constitution and we implemented that constitution to the letter with the integrity it deserves, it would completely transform the political space for women. Maybe there are things in the constitution we might need to review. And that's why constitutions are dynamic documents. You keep looking at it. Is it working for us? Is it working for us? Do we need to change anything? But if we could just, as a solution, implement what we created in when we published the constitution, and then repair anything else that needs to be repaired, I think that would make a huge difference already for us. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Dr. E. I mean, really, really great and valuable comments. And viewers, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening in. You would be surprised at how an hour can fly by when you're discussing critical matters like this ones. And I'm thinking we needed the Queen Mother. We need to do 2 hours probably, but to really just break it down, because we've hardly scratched the surface. But I'm looking at the clock and then I'm seeing where it's going. But on the matter of financing and security, I think for me, I need to bring in a nuance around women. When women vie for office, it's not just the normal security that like the men would look out for security. For women, it's more than that, because there's the issue of character assassination. Women have talked about sexual harassment in the campaign trail. Women have talked about men, their opponents sending goons to undress them in public. So there's so many things that happen to women that you'll end up spending so much on security, which then makes it difficult for women to present themselves for. So we must appreciate that aspect. We also must appreciate the fact that for the women rep seat was brought in because we refused to allow women to actually vie for whatever reason. And therefore the 2010 constitution then allows for this seat that if you look around, you will realize that many women who have managed to be governor, for example, what's her name? In Homa Bay, Gladys Wanga, she was sworn in today. Gladys Wanga was once a women rep. There's a lady in Moranga who is called Ngirichi. She was also a women rep. And so the women rep seat creates an opportunity for women to try it out and show people that, see, I can lead. But then you see after they've led, you see them going to another position. So because when a man vies, nobody asks the man, is he able? Usually people just say he will make it because he's a man. But for a woman, there are so many questions asked. So I wanted to bring and to end this conversation looking at the fact that what has stopped women from vying. And yes, we've talked about the political environment as it is, our environment that it is, and the lack of integrity. But also we need to appreciate the fact that women face unique barriers that then reduce their chances of being in leadership positions. And so before we close, I know we have like 3 minutes to go. Is it 4 minutes to go? Miss Margaret has joined us. If you could just give us one word. Oh, I really wanted us to hear from her, to just say hello because we're about to end the show. Quickly, if you could just share with us, you were running through this election. What was your experience in one sentence? How did you feel? How was it in one sentence? Honorable Margaret.
We lack funds. You hear me? Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I hear you. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry for reporting late. The internet is very poor. It is too low. Even it's not there. I am sorry. Thank you for having me here. How I wish I could have come in very early. I would have told you the stories that women in Kenya face. They are terrible, horrible.
I really want to hear from her, so I'm hoping that the internet will come back because she was right in the middle of the election. And so it would be great to hear from her. So we will go a bit overboard with the show so we can get to hear, from a person who's just come from an election, so that she tells us her experience. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. I want to share and it's real life. It is true. It is happening. Women, we face so many challenges, right from being marginalized. Another thing is security. Another thing is finance. Another thing is, are you accepted as a woman? We are told we are not, we cannot, but we are the women who are the nation. I would want to share my exact life history and brief about it. 2013, I vied as an MP in Kapchai, Bungoma County. Okay, I was still a learner in politics, but I learned more as time went on. 2017, I entered as Bungoma County Woman Rep. The challenge at the end of it was security and lack of funds. We didn't have funding on our political party, that was Na Kenya, in 2017. This time again, I entered. Our political party told me that they were going to finance me. So actually, this made me to come into politics again. In the middle of doing everything, I went through the clearance with the IBC. Unfortunately, as I was waiting for them to give me the funding, the security, and anything that would propel me run for the campaigns, they told me I should know how I am going to run for my seat. Well, fine. I said, okay, if that is the issue, it's not life and death, but it didn't occur to me well. And I was not the only one, because during the political party with the ORPP, we had said women must be assisted, must be funded by the political parties. So we wonder whether what we said was actually to assist the women, or it was just a promise for the poor women. The women are the planners and the managers. They mean what they do. Like me, I fought for 2/3 gender, that is 2/3 gender rule. Single-handedly, I started it off because I was roughed up in the 2017 county returning office. I was mishandled before very many people. I felt so bad, but the only way to answer that was to do the best practices. I had to go and sit down, examine myself. I saw also other women suffering the same way. So what I did, I petitioned the parliament, because women voice is not heard. There are very few in every position where there is election. They are beaten up, they are roughed up, there are so many things that doesn't dignify a woman. So I petitioned the parliament that we should go also to where decision making is being done, because we vie and we are threatened. We vie and there is no security. And the end result is that it is good to appreciate or to concede defeat, but we always appreciate defeat because we suffer quietly. We go to court, courts take too long to decide our cases. We hear of pro bono lawyers. You go to a pro bono lawyer and he's telling you pay 500,000, and yet even you didn't have 100,000 to pay the agents. So there are so many hitches that hinders women. One, for a woman to come out of her house or a parent's home to go to the public and announce that I am vying for a certain elective position, it means that lady is full of integrity. Another thing, when our brothers or male gender see that this woman is strong, they have to use what we call, this is a negative propaganda against a woman. Say like, oh, Margaret is my girlfriend. At my age, I mean what I am doing. I am not a flower girl of anyone. And these flower girls have also flower kings. So the two does not match and we dismiss it. But then the issue here is the worst problem, like me, I could not finish my campaign this time because I have been harassed right from the house, and I think they made it, but they didn't fulfill it. They made it, but they didn't fulfill it because I'm still in the ring. Right now, I have already started the 2/3 gender civic education right from the grassroots. Like last time, that was on Monday or Tuesday. Monday, Sunday and Monday. I have already gone through 4 sub-counties, whereby now that we ran to win, we did not win. And the story that happened in Bungoma is the same story that is in Homa Bay, because the elections were not free and fair to enable a competitive woman to complete. 2, we don't have funding. Funding is a real issue. Me, Margaret, I want to say I am just a living example. If I had the funding, the people are just okay with me. Because like right now, they're asking me, Mama, come back. We shall vote for you for the senatorial seat. That is, if it happens like Senator Weta goes for, depending with the results as we are in court, goes for the Speaker of the National Assembly. It means we are going to go for by-election. Now they are calling me, come, we shall vote for you. But the moment you reach the ground, things are different. They wanakwambia tupa chini. Without money, why are you coming to us? Give us money before we vote for you. So where do we get the money? And for the last 3 general elections, you have been sponsoring yourself. So for such a kind of embarrassment, good leaders are never elected. Leaders with good ideas are never elected. Women in Kenya are very good managers, like any other, but I'm speaking from experience. I am out of, and I can be out of campaigns, but also prepare other women to vie. Because any woman who succeeds, I shall have succeeded. My happiness will be like, if I see Carol making it to parliament, Carol is requested, for example, to speak on behalf of other women who are outside there, who are suffering, both in elective and appointive positions. Right now, even the county governments are employing CEC, administrators, village
So thank you for staying tuned in. Margaret has been sharing with us her experience on the ground. She's talked about the fact that women's voices are never heard, threats, and I believe they're not heard within even the party systems, so that we continually make the ground favorable and easier, and not easy in terms of favoring, but easier so that all aspirants, male or female, get an equal chance to be elected by the electorate. The issue of threats, the issue of lack of security, the issue of even if you went to court, you don't have enough money for going to court. I remember a lady aspirant in Nairobi trying to get to the member of county assembly seat. She kept on, the opponent who lost kept on going back and taking her to court. She had to go through different lawyers, and so that costs a lot of money. So Margaret, I was just thanking you for the insight that you've given us, and one of the things that we need to remember, that if we are going to be a country that actually wants leaders of integrity, we have to stop this issue of receiving money so that you can vote, or the person who looks like they have money is the person that you want to vote for, as opposed to the person who has leadership qualities. So if we are going to transform as a country, we have to really look inward as a nation and ask ourselves why we are the way we are. It has to start with you, and it has to start with me to transform the nation. And if I quoted Margaret right, she talked about Kenyans have leaders that that are not necessarily popular, but it's actually that they had a lot of money, and therefore they were able to throw some money around, and people felt they have money, and therefore they elected them. So I want to end this conversation at this point, because we've run over time with 10 minutes, but it was important because we needed to hear Margaret, BongaDadaBonga, which means Speak Sister Speak, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Kenyan time and 12 noon New York time. Please log in every Thursday for such conversations and more. Like we said, an hour is not enough to just break down the issues that we were discussing today. And so thank you again for Douglas for joining us, Dr. E for joining us, Margaret, Honorable Margaret for joining us, and for the BongaDadaBonga space for allowing us to have this conversation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Over to you, Queen.
Thank you.
Honorable had something else she wanted to say. Honorable Margaret?
We need. Please assist Kenyan women to buy. I'm doing facilitation on civic education. We need funding in preparation for 2027. Yeah.
Okay, so basically what she's saying is, I've done this several times and I'm going to do it again, but we need your help to create a fund for the women who choose to buy, because many of the problems that they encounter are quite different from the problems of the men. This is BongaDadaBonga. Say it with me, everybody. BongaDadaBonga.
BongaDadaBonga.
That's it. BongaDadaBonga. That's it.
BongaDadaBonga.
That's right. Every Thursday, live at 7 p.m. Kenya time. Be sure that you tune in and be sure that you tell us who you are, where you're from. Put your answers, put your questions in the chat box. We will make sure that they get to the people in Kenya who is giving you all the answers and telling us about solutions for the future. I want to give a shout out to Teresa Kim with the BongaDadaBonga team who is here. And one of the other things that the Honorable Margaret is saying is that we actually need monies to facilitate what it is the women are doing. And the women need help. It is not easy. You know, we do the household so easily with cooking the food and doing the jobs. But when you step into that political arena, it's a whole different animal. Once again, BongaDadaBonga, BongaDadaBonga. Speak, sister, speak. Speak, sister, speak. BongaDadaBonga. All right, we're going to wish you a wonderful evening. And we're going to go off the show just saying who we are. BongaDadaBonga. BongaDada. We're ending the show. BongaDadaBonga. BongaDada. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Doug, for being here. It's a beautiful day. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night.
All right, good night. Bye-bye.